Okay, Edge Animate is listed often with the web tools because it is a great way to get animation into a website because its output is HTML5. But don't forget that it can also be brought into InDesign, and it can be exported out in some of the other formats that InDesign can produce. So it's not just restricted to web. Another real nice advantage of this is that it can work on mobile devices. So if people are using Flash for animation, which is awesome for gamers and for websites, but it's not going to work on a tablet or on a phone. And the really cool thing I think about Edge Animate is that you can do a lot of the programming by just dragging and dropping and putting in numbers without having to code. The code is happening in the background and the HTML5 is being produced, but you're not having to code. If you want to code, you can override some things, but for the most part, you don't have to. So I'm going to just do two very simple things here to show you some of the animation features. One, I'm going to make this rotor spin. So this is a separate object, even though it's sitting on this stand. And then I'm going to have the clouds move over the top and on. This is supposed to simulate what happens with wind power as the air goes up and over the rotor, then it ends up speeding up and producing the energy. So to get started, I want to make sure that this playhead is at 0. This is where I want the objects to be at the beginning of their animation, and then I'm going to drag this playhead out to about 3 seconds, and this, now what I'm going to change is going to be where this animation, the objects are going to be at the end of the animation. So I'm going to go in here and click on a cloud, and right now these clouds are marked with XY motion, so it's just a horizontal or vertical motion, and I'll show you the difference here. So I'm going to drag this over, pull this over, oops, I got to make sure that I deselect that one. Oh, and then pop back to 0. Right, let's grab this guy. And all I'm doing is holding the shift key down to make sure that it's going in a straight line. All right, so now I can see I've got these paths. Actually, I don't think this one did its little thing, so let's go double check that one. I'm going to click on that path and just delete it. And then bring this back to 0. Move this back out to 3. You can see that that's the one path that's not there, and then I'm going to drag this guy out. Okay. Now I'm going to start over and just play the animation, and you can see that the clouds move across the screen. Now what I want to change here is instead of, for the top two, instead of just doing an XY, when these go over the rotor, I'd really like them to move up and around. So I'm going to change their motion paths from XY to motion. And it's going to delete the paths that I did, and this time I'm going to do it slightly differently. Though I'm going to drag these exactly the way I did before, it's going to create a path that I'm going to be able to edit. All right, now with this path selected, I'm going to take my cursor. Notice it turns into a pen tool. We've seen that tool in Adobe Illustrator. We've seen it in InDesign, and actually there's a pen tool in Photoshop. And I'm just going to hover over the path. Notice I get a plus sign. That's going to add an anchor point. So I'm going to put one here, place one over here. Sometimes I keep this selected. And then I'm going to drag up. And whatever path I choose, that's what that cloud is going to follow. So I'm going to grab this one, again, over the top, click. Yes. Question.
Now when we're adding the anchor points, do we have to, is it just directly click on it, or do we have like another key that we need to hold?
Nope, no extra key and no extra tool. So all you have to do is just hover and it'll change it from a pointer to a pen tool with a plus sign. If you want to remove the anchor, then you will want to hold down either the option or the alt key. There's a tip. So if I hover over and now I see move anchor, But if I go over a path, add anchor, and then exactly what you're asking, I'm glad you asked this question, because if I want to remove it, I have to hold down that key, and then you see that it's going to reset that handle. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Whenever you have video going on or movement going on, we've got this playhead, which is what's really important to keep watching, and we have all the different paths, just like you would have different pieces of video footage. All right, let's go ahead and play this. And those guys go up and over. All right, now I'm going to click on the rotor. Bring this back to 0. Make sure that the blue goes with it. I want to make sure that I see that gold path, and this is where I think I've been messing up today, is I'm not paying attention to that. You're not going to see that movement path created unless you see the brown and gold bar going across. And in this case, I don't want to move it left, right, up, or down. What I want to do is just rotate it right on its center. So I'm going to go over to the rotation and make it 720. So that it goes around more than once. And go back to the beginning now. And it rotates. Now, to get this out to a website, all I have to do is publish it. Oh, let's first just see it on the simulator. So I'm going to do command return. Goes up to the web, and I can see it going on. And it's going backwards because I need to stop the end of that. What if I want to make some additional changes to this? I don't want it to start the minute it goes into the website. What I'd like to do is have this start wind be a button that starts the animation and then it ends. So let's make that change. And it's pretty easy to do. I want to make sure everything is set to 0. Make sure my playhead is there, the blue on top. And first I'm going to say that when this starts, I want to stop all action. So I'm going to insert a trigger here. And from playback, I'm just going to choose stop all. And notice that it puts in the HTML code that's going to stop all that action. Get out. Now let's, hopefully when I press command return, which pops that into a web browser for me to preview. Okay, now I want the wind, this button, to start it. So let's see if I can do that. On this button, I'm going to right click and open actions for start wind, which is what this object was named. And under playback, I want to choose play all. And when I close that, let's again preview this. Nothing's happening. Go over the start wind, and away we go. What comes with Edge Animate, I haven't seen this in any of the other applications, is on your, actually you probably have them already showing up on the right hand side. It's called Lessons. So let's go over there. Mine I closed, so I'm going to reopen it. Just as it takes up a little bit more room here. And if you don't need the panel to the left of that, if you want to make more room for your background, all you have to do is just pull it in. And let's create, I'm going to close this file. And let's create just a quick new file. And I want us to go through and create a couple of animations just to start out. It's very addictive because it's really fun. Just grab a, well actually we can just follow through with this, but we're going to do a couple of extra things. So I'm going to click the start button, and we see that the lesson starts and it says select the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle in the upper left hand corner. So my tools are up here at the top. I'm going to grab that rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a box here. And if I want it to be a perfect square, I'm going to hold down my shift key, just like in any other drawing tool in an Adobe application. I'm going to click the pinhead in the timeline, and then let's drag that out, I don't know, to about 1 or 2 seconds. Maybe, let's do 0.2, because it'll be a longer animation that way, which is kind of fun. Now, we've told that position, at this position, where do I want this box to be? So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to move that rectangle down to the bottom right corner. And now, if I play that animation, it moves across. All right, now let's go ahead, and it says, let's go ahead and change this background color. So make sure that the square is selected. And we're going to go up to this icon here, which is our background color, and I can just choose any color that I want. Kind of doing blues today, so I'm going to choose this one. And then go ahead and here's your go to beginning, right? Just like any video player, play, go to end. So I'm going to go to the beginning, click on play again, and there goes my animation. Now one of the things you'll notice with this animation is it's not looking really smooth. And that's what we're going to do in this next step. So at the very bottom of this lesson, and what's really cool about this is we're doing it right inside of Animate. We're not having to go out to any other site, even though that's very easy to do too. I'm going to click next step, and we can see that we have all kinds of options to go here. So I'm going to choose okay, let's see if we can follow this. So click back up on lessons up at the top, and then go down where it says animate keyframes, and then click to open sample, and then click next step. Right, your other file should still be open. Right, now this is really fun. What they end up doing, and we won't get through all of this, but they have the word edge coming down. But this will give you an idea of how to smooth out, how to have some easement in. All right, so if we move the playhead, and I want to make sure that I've clicked on the little blue button, and I'm going to drag it out to 0.02. I know it says 0.01, but we're going to do 0.02. And then we're going to go click on the E, and I'm looking for my XY coordinates here that say 77 and 331. And we're going to move the playhead to 0, 0. So that's where we want it to end up. But now we're going to move it back to 0. And we're going to change the Y coordinate to -90. So just click on it and type in -90, or you can drag it, scrub it. And your E now should be up above the white area. Everybody got that? And let's just see what happens if we play. Oh, mine's not going anywhere. So let's try that again. With your playhead, drag it over to the right to 0.2. Change the Y coordinate to 331. And then hit play. All right, and I can do it again by just pressing my space bar as many times as I want to see that. You can see it's not really, really smooth. So if I click next step, what we're going to do is we're going to put in some easement here, some transition, so it appears. All right, so I'm going to click on this, and do you see this little button right here to the right of the blue bar? We're just going to say ease in, and let's just try that. So it starts out slow, and then it starts out faster and goes slower. Let's change that. Let's do an ease out. Click on this next step. Let's put that bounce in. So the one we want is ease out and bounce. So let's click on that transition, go back out, choose ease out, and then choose bounce. Let's try that. Isn't that cool? I just think that is so much fun. So if you finished this tutorial, you're going to have E, and then the G, and then the D, and then the E, and then the last one's going to like bounce, almost tip over, catch itself, and come back on. It's just really, really fun. All right, so we've gotten that. We're going to go to the next step. Now, this is going to deal, I think this next step deals with the drop shadow that's underneath, which is very cool. So we have this drop shadow underneath the E, but if the E was actually coming from above, wouldn't that drop shadow appear, right? It wouldn't be that same size the whole way down. So that's what we're going to try to do here. We're going to click on our auto keyframe, which is this red one here, and actually mine's already on. And we need to make sure that the green button is on as well. And we're going to select the shadow on the stage. Okay, so just Make sure that the E is not selected, but just this shadow is selected. Now I'm going to take this back to the beginning here. Make sure that the blue dot is above that, the playhead, and drag it out to 0.02. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a keyframe by clicking on the button for the XY scale. So do you see the little diamond to the right of the scale? So we have a horizontal scale and we have a vertical scale, but they're linked together. So when I click on that, we're going to actually get both of them. Now we're going to move the playhead back to 0. That E is going to go up, but we're not really impacting the E at the moment. Now we're going to go and set the properties panel to 0. Let's try that again. Okay. Isn't that cool? Yeah. And that you can put this on a website or. Okay. Now, in the properties panel, we're going to go over to the rotation, and we're going to change that to, let's see, -10. Now, we're going to move the playhead back to where it hits the bottom again. And then we're going to click on the first rotation keyframe, making sure that it's the only one that's selected. So I'm going to click, let's see, right here. I'm not sure if that's going to work there. Right. Let's copy and paste that one. Let me just see what this looks like now. But he's not really correcting himself quickly enough. So I may not have followed that exactly, but you get the idea. So we're using the bounce with the rotation. Okay, and if you keep on going, you can do the next letter, the next letter, the next letter. So think about this. This is, I could be putting a person's name in here, right? You could be putting little animals, you know, whatever you're doing. But the principle applies to any of those animations that you're trying to do. Now, I want to do one more animation by going back to the file we were in before, our untitled original with the square. And I want to change this to a motion path because someone was asking yesterday about bringing Illustrator paths in, and I had thought we could do that, but I have not been able to find the process on that. So I want to show you how easy it is to just modify a path, right? I'm going to take this back to 0. Oops, let's leave it. Click on that, go back. All right. Now, again, we're going to drag this out. I want to make sure that I've got that yellow bar going across. I'm going to go ahead and move the box to the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, did I make sure I have a motion path? Okay. Now, with that path, just like with the clouds, now you guys get a chance to play with this if you've got a computer, I'm going to add points along this path. Remember, you've got to hover right over the top of it. You'll see that plus sign. And I want you to drag these back and forth any way you want. Okay. And why this is at this location too, I'm going to change its rotation just slightly.
How did you get that the line? Yeah.
Okay, so with your box selected, yeah. Okay, right? Can everybody see where I'm circling? Yeah. Does yours say XY?
Yeah.
Okay, click on motion. Now, when it does that, it's going to probably want to erase the previous one. You might get a message saying erase that previous path. Go ahead and say yes. That means you're starting over again. Okay, and now it should be in the upper left-hand corner. Make sure that the play bar has the blue pin on top. Drag it over so you see that gold bar to 0.02. Now, when you drag the box down, you're going to see a blue path kind of following it after you let go of your mouse. Okay? Now, once you see that blue path, start hovering over the path until you see the pen tip, and just make several points there. You can even drag to make the arcs a little bit smoother. You can drag the handles, which widens the curve. I have no idea what I have no idea what this is going to look like. So this is an adventure for all of us. And then I just increase the rotation, but we'll see, because as it goes through here, I'm going to just see what the rotation looks like. All right, are we ready to go back to the beginning? Here we go. Yeah, it's moving pretty fast. I should probably get rid of a couple of these. I probably have too many here. So let's try this. Oop.
I have a question.
It's the command key, by the way, not the option key to delete those anchor points. Change your notes. So I just want to make sure that everybody's got that in their notes correctly. So over a path with no key, that's add a point. If you hover over a point rather than the path, you are moving the point, like we saw with the clouds and this. If I hold down the option key, I'm converting, and you should, anybody who was at my Illustrator session will recognize that little caret. So that's going to turn it from a smooth path to a corner path, and then holding down the command key or the control key on a PC, that's going to, should get rid of it. Oh. Yeah. If you go up to lynda.com, Deke McClellan has a really fun video where he has this beautiful picture of a flower, and then he has this butterfly, and he does exactly what we just did with the box. And the butterfly, you know, goes around and then it finally lands on the flower. But one of the things the butterfly does is it's flipping itself in weird ways. So there are ways you can, options that you'll want to listen to and check on that makes that object either stay its same orientation or turn right with that orientation. So that's a really fun one too, because there are just so many things you can do with adding a little bit of animation. The other thing, Paul Tranny does a video on a one-page web, which actually we're going to do some of that scrolling in our next, in the Muse one. And what's really cool is he has the scrolling website, and then he has an animation from Edge with a butterfly. So he just duplicates that butterfly 3 times, and then he has one start before the other one and go on different paths. And it's so cool because as it goes by, you see these butterflies all on this ledge, and they all take off at different times and fly. Very effective. It just draws you right in. And all it is was one animation that he just put different timings on, you know, in Muse. Very cool. So there's so much we can do with this. And the fact that it'll work on mobile devices is even an added benefit.